Alrighty, you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to the Rules and Bylaws, West Virginia Democratic Party Rules and Bylaws presentation. It's not really a meeting. We're not doing any business tonight, but this is sort of our regular scheduled night at 6:30 that we meet and review bylaws, and that's sort of, basically where we have done the majority of this work. And so the last year, when we made some proposals, Maria, I think it was Maria's idea, to do a presentation to the state executive committee. And so I think people really appreciated that. I hope they did anyway. So we did that and also presented to the County Chairs Association. And we wanted to do that again this time. So that's what we're using this meeting time for, is to present the proposals that have been sent out to the state executive committee and will be up what we're recommending for adoption at the June 15th meeting. Now, another little caveat to that is that meeting on June 15th will be at the tail end. Hold on just a second, please. It'll be at the tail end of our 2-day convention. And so a lot of people will be ready to hit the road, especially those that have a long way to travel and that sort of thing. I mean, we're all going to be politicked out. And so I want to be very clear that we in no way are trying to limit debate on the issues or anything like that. We just want to make sure that when everybody goes into that room and start, having our discussion about that everybody knows, what the proposals are. And we don't have to spend, 30, 40 minutes answering questions about, not that we mind doing that, but it would just save time if we didn't have to spend 30 minutes answering questions about what they mean and what is this, as opposed to everybody, walking in with a good understanding of what the proposals are and then being able to take a stance on whether they want to support it or not. So that's sort of where we're at. So let me, I just want to take a minute to thank the people. These are your Rules and Bylaws Committee. Our members are elected. They were elected last year and by the State Executive Committee. And we've had a couple little drama. One of them's in the ER right now. One of them had their car totaled, was not in the car when it happened, but anyway, we had a couple, and then one of them is in France right now. They're kind of taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a regular meeting. But I would like to, for the ones that are here, to introduce, and please take a minute to share your thoughts on any of this and the process that we've used. So Maria, can I start with you because I see you first?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Maria Russo. I'm based in the Eastern Panhandle. Been really honored to be a part of this process. We were meeting very regularly at the beginning. When first elected, we were meeting probably every 2 weeks at one point, and then we switched to once a month as we kind of got into the meat of the topics. But it's been a real honor to be a part of this process, and we've worked really hard to try to, like Judy always says, try to make something that will really last. So I will pass it to you, Judy, with that.
I think we've done a lot of compromising and a lot of discussion there are and a lot of rewording of things, but we have worked together as a cohesive team. I've just been thrilled to death with the way we were able to work together to get this done. So I'm proud of the results so far, and I've enjoyed being a part of it.
I guess that's me. I'm Dottie Berger. I'm the most junior member of this committee. And so like junior members get done, I get asked to be secretary. I'm from Morgantown. I retired from WVU. So I'm used to nitpicking, and I think we've done a really good job of picking out all the nits in the bylaws, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
Well, thank you all very much. Very much appreciate the time and the work that everybody has given. So Well, let's just jump right in. So what I think everybody received in their email is sort of a summary, and that's sort of what we're going to go over. The main piece of what we're going to go over is the summary. We're not going to focus on every little, tiny thing that might be, like changing an acronym, and there's some things in there that we're making sure that we're being inclusive. If there were he and her or him and her in there, we're changing it to they and them or something like that. So we're not going to talk about those. What we're going to focus on is the substantive changes and proposals. So I'm going to share my screen. Actually, yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. So this is the, you guys see the summary of amendment proposals up there? Is that what you see on the screen? Okay, all right. So this went out to everybody, and if you click this link right here, you will get the actual, the redlined version that has the strike. Anything in red is an addition. Anything in strike through is we're suggesting be deleted, that sort of thing. So if you want to look at the very, very, very in the weeds part of it, and there's that link to be able to go to that. But in terms of the substantive issues, proposals. So the first thing is attendance and proxies. So one of the things that we heard from a lot of people is they wanted to have an attendance policy for state executive committee members. And so we debated and looked at this, and, called the Secretary of State's office and looked at other states. And just we wanted to make sure that it was okay to put the policy in place, and which would mean that somebody might be removed if they did not, if they didn't meet the policy. So we were very, very serious about that. And what we came up with that we think is a reasonable proposal is that if a state executive committee member misses 3 meetings in a row, regardless of what kind of meeting it is, a virtual meeting, hybrid meeting, special meeting, whatever, 3 meetings in a row, they are automatically removed subject to appeal, or 5 total. And so I want to be very clear, this is only applicable to the state executive committee. That does not apply to county committees. And we're going to kind of talk about county committees in just a little bit. But this is specific to the state executive committee. So what would happen is people would have, if they missed 3 in a row, or a total of 5, they would receive a letter from the recording secretary that, explains that, that they are removed, but that they may appeal. And so they would have 30 days from the receipt of that letter to file an appeal with the Board of Appeals. This section also defines proxies, who can be a proxy, and also how many proxies. Currently, the bylaws do not specify the number of proxies anybody can carry, but we're recommending that we adopt a policy of no more than 1 proxy per person. And then in terms of defining proxies, currently, it's can be difficult for people who are Senate district, the people who are elected from the primaries. The current bylaws say that the only people that they can have to be their proxy are another Democrat from their district. And so if you're in, let's say, Senate District 16, which is up in, Berkeley, Jefferson County, and let's say the meeting's in Charleston, could be like a 5 or 6 hour drive for somebody. And so what this does is it doesn't change that they can still have somebody from their Senate district, but it also allows any member of the state executive committee to also be a proxy. And so it is, and I just use that example for the Senate districts because that's the most restrictive. But whatever their political subdivision is, so if they are an officer, if they are with Affirmative Action Committee, whatever their political subdivision is, Senate district, they can still have somebody from that. But in addition, we are expanding who can be their proxy by allowing any other member of the state executive committee can be their proxy, assuming also that it can only be one. That person, that state executive committee member, can only hold one. This part also provides that proxies may be accepted by email from the member's email address that is on file, as long as all the relevant information is included. It also says that proxies will be available for review by members and the public at the beginning of meetings. And again, the very last part is that proxies are limited to no more than one per person. The next section is that we are proposing a minute about is the organizational meeting. So the organizational meeting is the first meeting following the election of new members. So it's really in many, many ways, the most important meeting of the entire term, because that's where you elect your officers and at-large members and that sort of thing. And so we just amended this to require that the notice that goes out for that meeting includes vacancies, positions, and offices to be filled. It also specifies who can vote at that meeting and when they can vote. And so the main people who can vote at that meeting, especially like right at the start of that meeting, are the district level representatives and any ex officio members. So that's kind of the core group of the membership. And then as people are elected, like as they elect at-large members or officers or whatever, if they have a vote, then once they are elected, then they subsequently are allowed to vote in that meeting. We also tweaked the order of business just a little bit to clarify, when people are elected, and we wanted to make sure to include the filling of the state Senate vacancies, the appointment and ratification of diversity at-large members, and include nominations and elections of standing committee members. The next section is related to officers. And so this actually, we were asked to do this because of a very specific issue that occurred this term. It's also happened from me talking to our former chair and some other members. This has happened before, so it's not, apparently this happens from time to time. And so what happens is if the current policy or the current bylaws say that the chair and the first vice chair have to be of different genders. Now the DNC bylaws don't say that. They just have equal division, period. In fact, they've regularly have had, either two males be chair and first vice chair. But our bylaws say that our chair and first vice chair have to be of different genders. And then we also have a second vice chair. And so the problem that we're trying to fix is that if the chair is no longer the chair for whatever reason, I mean, they could resign. That in one situation in the past, the chair has passed away, but for whatever reason, you don't have a chair, okay, of whatever gender. And then you have your first vice chair. If your first vice chair wants to run for chair, then there's not a problem at all. But if your first vice chair does not want to run for that position, the way the bylaws are written, that they have to be different genders, that creates a lack of choice for the state executive committee of who they can have for their top position for their chair. So so if this person is a female, the only person that can run for the position, the only person that can be elected to the position is a male. And well, what if you can't find a male to run? What if you really want to elect a female, right, for your chair? So what our suggestion is, and what we are proposing, is to require not that the chair and the first vice chair be of different genders, but that the first and second vice chairs be of different genders. So what that does is allow your chair to be of any gender, and you still maintain equal division amongst your top three officers. Your other officers, they have to be equally divided anyway. But that would prevent you ever having like 3 males or 3 females. You would always have either 2 of one and 1 of the other, or in the event that you would have a non-binary person, it would address that. So again, the purpose of this is to fix a problem that already exists. And in this way, we are allowing choice, and anybody would be able to run for that position. And your committee, the committee would be able to choose who they wanted for their top position. The other thing that this section does is provides for neutrality of the chair by providing that the chair only vote to make or break a tie. So in instances where the votes come in and there's a difference of 1 between the votes, and if the chair would vote one way or the other, it would change the outcome of the vote. So in this instance, and Robert's rules already allows for chairs to do this anyway. But anyway, so what we're doing is providing for what we want is really for our chair to be neutral. We think assemblies work better the more fair and neutral your chair is. And so that's the reason we're building that, kind of codifying that the chair will only vote to either make or break a tie. So the next 3 are sometimes when you change something in one part of the bylaws, then it affects other things. And so this next 3 are all related to that attendance policy. So the first part of it has to do with removal of a member. We already have that in our bylaws. And what this does is just clarify that, there's already things in there like good cause for removal. And we just added that the violation of the attendance policy is yet another reason that is good cause for removal. Article 6, Section 3, this is the attendance piece related to county executive committees. So I told you earlier I would come back to talk about counties. So the attendance policy that we mentioned before in Article 5, Section 3 is only applicable to state executive committee members, not to county committees. However, we know that county committees want to have an attendance policy. And so what we put in here is that a clarification that county committees don't have to, but if they want to, they may adopt a reasonable attendance policy in their bylaws. So a lot of people are very, very, very happy about that. The last amendment or proposal in here is that we just added into the duties of the Board of Appeals that they may hear appeals related to the violations of the attendance policy. So again, just connected that back with the attendance policy. So that is proposals kind of in a nutshell in a bit. At least the substantive parts of it. So is there I'm glad to look at any piece of it that anybody wants to answer, any questions that anybody has. And then the other members also, please, chime in at any point that you would like
to. Hey, Selena, it's Cody.
Hey, Cody, how are you?
Good. I think there's just been a lot of great work put into this, and that I'm on the county executive committee too. And like what you just said, we definitely wanted something kind of in place when we kind of started over with having an attendance policy, because I think that's just good government and good party, leadership, making sure the people that we have, elected or, we're working for Democrats and we're showing up and we're putting the work in. I did have a question about the 5. Is that 5 meetings within a year, or is that 5 just like a running total of 5, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's in a term, 5 within a term of somebody's membership.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah, that's all I have. I just want to thank you guys. It looks like you've done an amazing job, a lot of work. Looks solid. I'm glad we're moving forward with this.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that very much, Cody. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Oh, you guys are a quiet group.
I'm not quiet. I just can't get on.
Oh, okay. Hey, Floyd, how are you?
I'm okay. I've got a
Good.
bunch of questions.
Okay, great.
Issues.
Uh-huh.
Number one, I have read this from top to bottom.
Great.
And basically, it's the same thing that we put in back in May of whatever, 23. The only difference in it, as I see, is that you put in an appeals process. Okay. But that's not really my concern. What my concern is when you go to removing people off the state Democratic Executive Committee that were elected by the voters, that creates a problem. There's also another problem that the state executive committee could be sued because I'm handicapped. Other people are handicapped. I know people that are computer illiterate. 2 of the meetings we're having the regular meetings are computer generated by Zoom. If you're computer illiterate, you can't attend those. There's nothing in the bylaws that says you have to be computer literate to be on the state executive committee. So the people that are computer illiterate are hurting there. There's also another issue. I'm handicapped. I can't go to meetings and sit on folding chairs for 6 or 7 or 8 hours like at the State Democratic Executive Committee meeting in Charleston on the 15th, 14th, and 15th. I appoint somebody to go in my place. That person is my representative. He can vote in place of me. He is counted as part of the quorum, yet I'm not in attendance. He does not attend for me. That is a problem. If I'm handicapped and I send him to a meeting because I can't do it because I'm handicapped, and if you read our bylaws, there's a half a dozen places in there that says you'll bend over backward to assist those of African-American descent, LGBTQ, et cetera, handicapped people. Yet if you're passing policies that limit handicapped people's participation, I could see where somebody, it wouldn't be me, I wouldn't do that. But I can see where somebody might decide, hey, they're discriminating against handicapped people by their attendance policies, and they won't allow me to appoint a proxy to represent me at that meeting. I think I'll just get me a good Republican lawyer and see if I can't sue the State Democratic Executive Committee. Now, if I got kicked off this committee, I wouldn't even appeal it. I'd say it's their loss. I would not lose a whole lot of sleep on it. The sun will still rise in the east and set in the west. But there may be somebody out there that wouldn't look at it like me, and these policies could put the State Democratic Executive Committee in financial chaos because Republicans sued them because of they're discriminating against handicapped people. They're discriminating against people who are computer illiterate. Matter of fact, I know a person who fills both of those. They are computer illiterate and they're handicapped. If that person was to be kicked off the State Democratic Executive Committee because of that, I don't see why they couldn't get a good lawyer and sue the committee. I wonder how many meetings since Mike has been in there has he had to cancel because he didn't have a quorum? I don't think there's been any.
I don't think so either. I
So
don't remember any.
you're fixing a problem that don't yet exist. Now, I understand that there's dead wood on this committee, and there ought to be a way to get that dead wood off the committee. But in my opinion, the way to do that is for the Democratic Executive Committee, say in my 4th senatorial district, to appoint somebody to run, say against me or the other female representative in this district, run against them, support them, and see if you can't get them voted out of office, not taken out by people on the state Democratic Executive Committee, some who weren't elected, they were appointed. That upsets me. But like I said, if it happened to me, you wouldn't have any worry, but there may be others. But it's basically the same thing that you voted down because there might be legal ramifications in May of last year, with the only exception being you can appeal it. How do you appeal a disability? How do you appeal the lack of knowledge on computers, computer ignorance? You can't appeal those things. That pretty well, and there must be a dozen places in there that said they'll bend over backward to help handicapped people. This doesn't help handicapped people, in my opinion. That's my 2 cents for this issue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Floyd. So I really do appreciate your thoughts, and I'm really glad that you read over it. I don't want to debate, because I don't think this is the place to necessarily debate, just primarily to understand what the proposal is, and then at the executive committee people can debate there. So
it's a legal issue. It's a legal issue, and it should be decided by people who are attorneys. I'm not an attorney. I don't know whether anybody on this committee is an attorney. Probably not. But in my opinion, it's a legal issue and should be settled that way.
Yeah, thank you. So, but I do want to clarify a couple things. One is, we didn't vote this down at the last meeting. What happened was, we did have an attendance policy, and when we were doing this presentation, somebody made us aware of a very, very recent, like within the last month before we had the presentation, of a ruling by, I'm pretty sure it was Judge Tabbitt.
It was.
And yes. And so that ruling, what had happened in a Republican county committee, is that they had removed somebody and they sued them. And you can go, and we have copies and we've read it, but the bottom line is the judge did not have an issue with the fact that somebody was removed. The issue and the reason that the person who sued that won is because there was not a due process. There just wasn't due process in there. And so we were made aware that literally, and we'd are, in the middle of that. And so what I did when we were presenting those is, and they already went out. And so from, a Robert's Rules perspective, we wanted those to be voted on, just across the board, but we needed to remove that part of it. So what we did is I asked that section, which is Article 5, be removed from consideration for us to continue working on it. And so that passed, and so everything else passed. So we didn't vote against it. We voted to remove that from consideration. And then we went back to work and made sure that we understood the ruling and that sort of thing. The other thing,
I was there. I know what happened, and I know why it was removed and all that. So thank you.
Yeah, so that's what happened. And so according to Judge Tabbitt, committees can remove people. In fact, we already have, like in our current bylaws, there's already things in there that we can remove people for, and there's a process. But we wanted to be, if we were adding this in, we did really want to do our due diligence. So there's that. The other part is, you're absolutely right. Let me share my screen and let's see. And you see, do you see Article 2 general provisions? Could somebody? No, hold on.
I don't need to see it. I've got it right here.
No, but I want other people to be able to see. Okay, can you guys see that? Is it now Article 2? Judy, I'm looking at you. No.
I just see you.
Okay, hold on. Oh, wait, here we go. Let me try to I don't think I hit share. All right, how about now? Does that say?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah. So what Mr. Chair was talking about, there are a couple things. Is one in here, this is one of the things that we added last May, is 6 basic elements of an open party. All public meetings at all levels should be open to members, regardless of race, sex, age, blah, 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 blah. And then it does say, or disability. Okay.
Right.
Also in here, it says, Section 2, discrimination is prohibited in the conduct of Democratic Party affairs, and it includes disability is prohibited. So I just wanted to point that out, that, he is correct in that. I think that,
It says it in the preamble also.
yes, you're absolutely right. I just picked those two. So I think that's a fair case for you to make. I think it's would people agree with you? And I think that you should bring that case, state your case, and thank you for sharing that and bringing that to our attention. So I really appreciate your due diligence in bringing that forth to us, Floyd. Judy, you have your hand up.
Yeah. In the same vein of disability, if somebody is computer illiterate and doesn't know how to do, could that not be used as a disability too?
Does it say so in our Constitution or our bylaws that you have to be computer illiterate or computer literate to be on the executive committee?
No.
No.
Okay, so that sort of answers that question as far as I'm concerned.
All right. I see a hand up by Pam Klein. Hey, Pam, how are you?
Hey, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to follow up to Floyd because we have heard those concerns. We've heard it on our county committees. We've heard it on we face that with the chairs committee. So it's an important thing, but I don't know how because when you look at the work that people are doing within the Democratic Party, a big majority, just like our voters right now, are people that are, I don't know what, I don't want to call myself older, but I am. So we do have those challenges, and it's hard to figure out how to address the progression of technology and the way things are proceeding now and address that issue too. But we do have that. We've discussed that, especially with elected officials, elected members of our committees. So I think it's a valid, but I just am not sure what the answer is to it. I just wanted to let him know that I understand it and I support what he's talking about. But I would like to know how we progress with that.
Well, I think that's a very good question. And one of the things that I would want you to be aware of is some county committees cannot function because they can't meet a quorum. They don't have anybody that shows up to do the work. I don't think that we're on the state committee at that point yet, but just so you know, I think it's really important that county committees will be able to adopt a policy regardless of whether people have been elected or not. And there were a couple examples that we spent a lot of time talking about or like triggered us to talk about, and I'll share a couple of those with you. One is in one county, a person who, with good name recognition, decent person, nothing against this person, would always run for state executive committee and never show up to any meetings, like term after term after term, would never show up to any meetings other than get elected. And
I know who you're talking about.
You might.
I might.
Well, there's been more than one, but you might. And so a person asked that person when they were running again, and asked them, would you consider, we have this young person who's really interested in running and really wants to be part of state executive committee. And it's going to be hard for them to win, because of your name recognition. Would you consider not running and letting this younger person? run. And so this person said that they really like to be a national delegate to the national convention, and that it was much easier to get elected to be a national delegate or chosen to be a national delegate if they were on the state executive committee. I mean, that is what they said is the reason that they ran for state executive committee, not to do any of the state executive committee stuff, but because what they wanted was to go to the national convention every 4 years. Another example, in a different county, is a person constantly, every year, had good name recognition, always had their name on the ballot for state executive committee, always won, and was asked, hey, there's a younger person who's real involved, all that same story. And that person said, it's really important to me that when I die, that my obituary says that I was a member of the state executive committee. Didn't come to meetings, nice person, very, very nice person, but would not come to a meeting. So anyway, so there are two pretty drastic examples of people. I'm not going to call them dead wood or dead white, like Mr. Sayre did, but some people might use that terminology. So there's another aspect of it to think about is you have some people on county committee, some people on state executive committee with that thinking, and we have a lot of work to do. I will also say that I personally called the state Secretary of State's office when we were initially looking at doing this. I asked if there was any reason that we could not pursue have an attendance policy, and I was told as long as we have it in our bylaws, where that was sort of where we're at. What is that had to be in our bylaws. We couldn't, we couldn't just willy-nilly remove people or whatever, but as long as it's in our bylaws. And so this is in our bylaws, and it is in, whether you agree with it or not, it is in, at least in our opinion, and we had Bob Baker, who's a lawyer, look over this, and we believe that we're in compliance with what we're judged habit. So, and again, it's up for debate. Mr. Sayre brought up fair issues of concern and may want to debate those on the floor, and that's absolutely fine. Again, we just really want to make sure that everybody understands what the proposals are before we go in on the 15th.
I think that's great, and I appreciate the work, because I definitely appreciate bylaws and the rules that you need to go by. It's just bringing two pieces that are pretty far apart together, but I do appreciate all the work. Trust me, I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Are there any other questions or thoughts that anybody would like to share?
The only thought that I would say is, yes, attendance is a problem. The dead wood I'll refer to again. But don't do something that gets the party in deep trouble on an issue that really hasn't caused a major problem yet, not at the state level, because I don't think there's been any meetings canceled because of a lack of quorum. So you're addressing a problem that hasn't arisen yet, and it may create other problems with lawsuits or whatever. That's my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Floyd. All right, any other thoughts, any other questions from anybody? Okay, well, that sounds, thank you all for spending part of your, what is this, Tuesday evening with us. We usually are on here, having a lot of debate about these issues, very similar to this conversation that we just had here. And all of our meetings are available, are recorded and are on YouTube. And so you're welcome to go to the West Virginia Democratic Party YouTube page and to review any of that. But anyway, somehow or another, Maria got kicked out. She's coming back in. All right. So anyway, thank you all very much for being on here. Thank you very much to all the members of the Rules and Bylaws Committee and the time that you guys have put into this. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you on June 14th and 15th. If you will be there. I'm really looking forward to the state convention. I think that'll be really exciting. So anyway,
I have a question on the state convention.
I'll
I can't
try to answer. I might not be able to.
Well, I think you will.
Okay.
I can't sit in those folding chairs for a long time, so I'm going to appoint somebody to be me at that convention. However, I do intend to attend the convention as an alternate. That means if I get in trouble, I can get up and leave and it won't cause a big problem. If I attend as an alternate, am I still counted absent?
Well, this attendance policy would not even, if it's passed, and it hasn't passed yet, but if it's passed, it won't pass until the 15th, which is after the convention.
That makes sense, yes.
Yeah, and on top of that, this has nothing to do with the state convention anyway. It has to do only with the state executive committee. So it wouldn't necessarily be applicable to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Floyd. All right.
Appreciate all the hard work and the participation. I really do.
Thank you, Pam. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much, and good night. And hopefully I'll see you guys on the 14th.
If I can find a
Thank you.
room.
Thank